Hello, welcome back on my channel. Thank you so much for joining me again for my May wrap-up. If you're new here, hi, my name is Cici. Buckle up, we have quite a lot of books to talk about. I didn't find video clips for 4 of the books that I read. Blessed Olive Tree, The Bad Muslim Discount, Network Effect and Fugitive Telemetry, which is book 5 and 6 in the Murderbot Diary. And I assume that I didn't tape my wrap-up because I have them in the vlog. If you're interested in my thoughts on these, go check out my vlog as soon as it comes up. Vlogs just take forever to edit for me. Make sure that you subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so that you know when it comes up. We still have 11 books to talk about, so I decided against going in and filming the wrap-up now, like later, because we still have 11 books to talk about. The Well of Ascension. I was struggling between a 4 and a 5 star. I do think that the writing is really good. I do enjoy the character arcs. This is the second in the series, so obviously I can't talk too much about what's happening in the book because I would absolutely spoil you if you haven't read the first one. I enjoyed where this was going. This one was a lot more political, and the fights and the action was more based around the political decisions. Maybe I think that this is the type of book that will get better with a reread, because you know, when a fantasy on like, what is it, like 800 pages is getting very political, it is just natural that you're starting to miss things. I feel like you would read a lot more into it in the second time around. I still enjoy the characters a lot. I enjoy the world, and everything's good and everything's great. It's just that it's not one where I put it down and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the most amazing thing that I've read. And I think that I have had that with Brandon Sanderson before. And this is just good. I mean, good isn't bad, right? First sentence is, the army crept like a dark stain across the horizon. And I expected a 3.5 star. All right. Then I read Leviathan Wakes, the novel that the Expanse Prime Original series is based on. I really enjoyed this. I was at the end also between a 4 and 5 star, leaning more towards a 5 star. I enjoyed this world a lot. There were a lot of threads that I really liked. We have some fun characters that are, I don't know how to summarize this book without going into spoilers. We have 2 male characters. One is like this private detective, one is like this starship captain. Then we have the private detective. Well, he's not a private detective. He like was a cop, then he's not a cop, but he was looking for a girl, and we've been following that girl a little. We have a very cool atmospheric setup in the future where we have belchers that are in like an asteroid belt. We have colonized Mars. We have people on Mars and people on Earth, and they're fighting, and we have a big war in this. We have military, we have a strategic, we have some intrigue, and we have intergalactic politics. We have all sorts of moving parts, and there's like, this is a big chess game, and we have a lot of moving parts, and we're following some of them. And so this is really, really good. What I was struggling with a little bit is the leaning towards this could potentially go a little bit horror-esque, which I'm not a fan of. It would still be well done, it would still be good, and objectively a really good book, but for me, when it goes into like we have an alien life form that takes over, we have like creepy bio, as soon as it gets this horror aspect, I'm out. And we had a few points where it could have gone that way, and then it took a turn again, and then it went there, and then it took a turn again, and so it was a steady oh my gosh. And the overall story was really captivating. I liked the twists and turns it took, and yeah, I think that this is a 5 star, I guess. 4.5, 5 star. So I think it's a 4.5, but I'm rounding up for Goodreads, I believe. The first sentence in this one is: the scopuli had been taken 8 days ago and Julie Mao was finally ready to be shot. And I think this really intrigued me. I expected a 5 out of 5 stars, and because honestly that is a really strong first sentence that just captures you, and I loved it. And it was really good. This one is a very, very clear 5 star. Oh my gosh. This series, this world is just, oh, I can't stop talking about this because it is so, so good. To be fair, if you are a plot-driven person, this might at times bore you. The whole series might at times bore you. Each book is within this universe, and this is the 4th book, plays in a different area. We have completely new characters, but they're loosely tied together, like you have one connection or something. This one is playing on a planet that is in a crappy situation and people cannot get off the planet or communicate to the ships waiting in the lower orbit. When a freak technological failure halts traffic to and from the planet Gora, 3 strangers are thrown together unexpectedly with seemingly nothing to do but wait. Not much is happening. There's a little happening, but what makes these books so freaking good is the conversations, is the social interaction. It's every single freaking chapter is a lesson on tolerance, acceptance, broadening your horizon, broadening your thought patterns, breaking away from your systemically induced thought patterns, and just trying to view the world with new eyes. And that is just so beautiful. Every single chapter brings up an issue, and it brings it up in a way that it's not like, oh, we have a conflict and we're releasing that. No, it's by 2 people interacting and learning from each other and being open to learning from each other. We have, in this one, we have a child asking very blunt questions. We have species that pick a gender at a certain time in their age. So we have a non-binary gender in here for most of the book, and it is so natural how they are using the non-binary genders for this. And it all just, you know, when you then have a different species asking, hey, how do you decide what gender you're going to be? And these kind of things. We have different types of pregnancies, we have different types of reproduction, we have different types of preferences, social constructs. It's all so different, and with the interaction we are shown, just, it's like a weird, bizarre mirror of what we're doing. Does that make sense? I don't know if I'm making sense. It's just, it's so good. If you at least have the slightest interest in like breaking social construct thinking, and you're willing to sit down and read a book that does not have the biggest plot line with the biggest twists. The plot line is a background for these conversations, and this is for each and every single one of these books. And if you get into this knowing that and you're ready for that, you will love this. So good. Definitely one of my favorite series. So enough praise. The first sentence is: this is an update from the Goran Orbital Cooperative regarding satellite network coverage between the hours of 600 and 1800 today, 236/307. I expected 5 out of 5 stars, and it is a 5 out of 5 stars. I don't think it's the strongest first sentence to really draw you into the storyline, but it is a really strong... You're pretty clear that this is like a report, and you're going into a story with a report and an update and an announcement, and it just gave me this atmospheric feeling of, I'm gonna like this. The next book that I finished is Archibald Lock's A Bridge Between Worlds, and the first sentence is: a sickening silence reigns in the house of death. And I gave this 3.5 stars, and I have to sadly say that I ended up giving it only 2 stars. I have been reading this with Connor for the Free Book Friday, so you will get a much bigger review and much more details on a Free Book Friday. Overall, it was a big disappointment. I do have quite a few things to say why it was a disappointment. I'm quite surprised that so many people rated it so great. The average rating on Goodreads is 3.96, which totally surprised me. I do not know why. Please go check out my Free Book Friday because I think that I am going to have quite a few things to say. And then I just finished Black Buck this morning, and so good. I was a little bit afraid in the beginning of Black Buck that I had hyped it up too much in my head. Black Buck is about this young black man who works in Starbucks, and he's being discovered by this salesperson who gives them a shot to become a salesperson in the team and earn a lot of money. So we're following this story arc where we have, over the course of a year, we have the separate stages of this career of this person. He gets into, like, we start with where he's at, then we go into this sales situation and into this company, and then we have a few more stages after that that I don't want to go into to not spoil anything. But the moment when he entered that sales part, I had expected a little bit more of a normal corporate America. And I know that a lot of people aren't really for like corporate lifestyle, or don't necessarily glorify or romanticize that lifestyle. And I fully understand. But I do have to say that I'm quite happy with being part of that machinery and being a worker in management in a corporate setting. And even though obviously every single time when you work with people, you are going to have good things and bad things, and you're going to have good managers and bad managers, and you're going to have good environments and bad environments. But overall, I feel like there is something in corporate, like in the corporate lifestyle, that can be fun and that people can enjoy. And I personally like that type of work, and it's not a just generally a toxic slavery machinery environment. That's not what it naturally is. There's also the very like flexible job style, the very tailored to my needs job style. I can work from where I want, when I want, and it's just important that I deliver at the end of the day, having really great relationships, having great opportunities that I might not be getting. And I was hoping and expecting more this environment, and then adding the experience of a black person being the only one, like coming in and nobody looks like them, and having certain barriers and struggles that we would be following, and potentially racism, potentially different like prejudice and systemic racism and all these kinds of layers. I was ready for that. What I wasn't ready for is going into this very Wolf of Wall Street, over the top, bordering on the absurd situation, where it becomes very, very clear to the reader very, very quickly that this is extremely toxic environment. So I thought that was a little bit sad, to be honest, because this became less of a this black man makes his way and empowers others and everything. It became more of a, it's not a good place, that why would you want to be there? And then obviously we see changes within our main character, which is absolutely normal. When you change your life, when you change, when you develop, when you grow, you also grow as a person and you develop, which is absolutely okay. What I really hated in this book is that we see a part of this life, and then we're like, oh, 3 months later, and then our main character is being confronted with, hey, you've changed. And I, as a reader, am like, wait, but he didn't change yet. And I feel like the author could have done a better job at taking us on that journey of change. So when I was like at the halfway point, I was like very, very afraid that I would be very disappointed with this book, because I hyped it up in my head so much, and then I was like, the author isn't taking me on the journey. The setting is very toxic, and I was hoping more of a normal environment for white people and just showing how it is toxic for people of color. And I was, well, you get the gist, but it did, over the second half of the book, it absolutely saved it. It absolutely went back with the other stages. There's a lot of things that might lean on the absurd, not really absurd, but might lean on the over the top. But it started being in a good way. And I did not have that strong feeling about, oh my gosh, I have missed a crucial part where they didn't take me on the journey of this character anymore. I was still a little bit annoyed with the jumps, but not as much. So I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars because it still was quite good. I just wish that the author would have taken us on the full journey and not done these skips. What I really liked is that the book also based the thing on giving sales tips. So in the chapters, we every now and then we have like, reader, this is like a very where the author in the first point, like the narrator is the first point perspective, and then they stop and like, reader, and they give like the sales tip and how this relates to the story, and that is done really well. I really like that. So yeah, it was a little bit different than what I expected, but it was still good. And the first sentence was, the day that changed my life was like every other day before it, except that it changed my life. And I predicted 5 out of 5 stars, and I would have still predicted 5 out of 5 stars if I would have known that this is the book. I'm just a little bit disappointed, but it's okay. So the next book that I finished is House in the Cerulean Sea, and I did enjoy it. I did not enjoy it as much as I thought I would due to the hype, but I do believe that this is basically because of my reading taste. Objectively, the book is really, really good. House in the Cerulean Sea is following this caseworker who goes to an orphanage to check out if everything is going okay, if the kids are being treated okay. And this orphanage is full of magical creatures, and he gets there. He kind of gets this task because he is very matter-of-factly, because he can make an empathetic decision without getting too attached, and he can still then pass it on to the next person. So he does his job, he understands feelings, he understands compassion, but he does not get too close to his subjects. And well, all of this is obviously going to change in this orphanage. The overall atmosphere in the book is very whimsical, very cutesy. We have a bunch of children with wonderful characters, very sinister, very sassy, very a little bit over the top, but in a fun and cute way. This book really reads as middle grade, even though it is not classified as a middle grade, but it feels very much like a middle grade book. We have cute, fun kid characters, and all the relationships I feel like are still quite kid friendly. And the whole way that this like absurd, fun, magic like atmosphere is written feels very, very much like for kids. So I feel like for a middle grade this would be amazing. For a young adult it's good. I do think that there is a lot of love for a very wholesome story. We have a male romance in this book. It is incredibly wholesome. It is a wonderful journey. We do not have a huge plot line, but it trickles a little bit along the way, the plot line. You know where it's going, and you know pretty early on how this book is going to turn out, I feel like. But it's about the relationships. There were a few chapters where I felt like I could have written at least like 2-3 quotes from each page that were so good about tolerance, acceptance, prejudice, and combating prejudice, and just very, very wholesome, very, very good message overall. One thing that I really loved was that by chapter 3, I buddy read this with Jen and I messaged her. It's amazing that within 3 chapters, the author was able to make me understand the world, give me a sense of the atmosphere, make me understand the main characters, give me a good introduction so that I feel like I know these people and I'm already kind of invested, and also give me a little bit of a storyline, so kind of hook me in. And that was really well done. Personally, I just got a little bit annoyed by like the whimsical, over-the-top characters and the repetitiveness of bringing this message of tolerance and acceptance and being open towards different people over and over again. It doesn't make it wrong. It just got boring for me. I want a book to hit a little bit harder than that. But having said that, I feel like you can see how I am potentially judging this book a little bit more harshly because I'm not the right target audience. And that usually feels very wrong to me. I did end up giving this 4 out of 5 stars. I think that my reading experience was between 3 and 4 stars, but objectively this book is really well done. And if you're in for that cute, whimsical, atmospheric story with fun characters, really fun, over-the-top characters, sinister, dark, not really dark humor, but you just have to imagine it's very light-hearted fun, but you have characters that are like, ooh, I have to be evil, so I'm gonna go and I'm gonna do something, but then they're way too nice to do this, but they have this image of themselves that because they are this magical creature that they should be doing something like bury bodies or something. It's just so cute and wholesome and fun. And if you like this like cutesy feeling, you are going to love House in the Cerulean Sea. It's just that for me, it's not hitting hard enough. It's not real enough. And so yeah, I'm giving it 4 out of 5 stars because I emotionally didn't get as invested as I need to with a 5 star, but objectively it's a really good book. So, and I predicted with Oh Dear, Linus Baker said, wiping the sweat from his brow, a 3.5 star. And I feel like this is exactly what I ended up having. Okay. Next, I finished today The Weight of Our Sky. Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. This book is so amazing, and I have no idea why this is not more known and shown in the booktube community. I think this is from 2019, and this is so good. I do believe that this is marketed as young adult, but it is for the younger young adult. It says age 12 and up. The main character at one point says that she is 16, but I do believe that she feels a little bit younger. This book is so good. It is so well written and just, oh, I love this book. We follow Melati, who lives in Kuala Lumpur in 1969, and she has a mental health problem. She has tapping rituals that she has to do to keep her inner demons, her inner jinn at bay. We have elements of the historical fiction of the war between the Chinese and the Malays, and it is very well done. Throughout the whole book, I felt the fear of this riots, of the sudden explosive war situation over a couple of days with like a 24-hour curfew and chaos and everything. I felt that, and it was so well done. We have some really, really, really heavy situations, but I feel like the way that they're written, they're still suitable for somebody at the age of 12. Our main character, as I mentioned, has the mental health issue, but then she gets separated from her mom in this chaos, and she pretty much, all she tries throughout the book is get back to her mom, and she encounters different types of people. She encounters a Chinese family. She's Malay, and she encounters this Chinese family, and there's just a lot of different things, and it's just so well done overall, and I'm just, yeah, it's so good. I love the representation of the mental health issue. It is when you read it, you can feel it. You understand what it's like to be in that mind. And that is, for me, one of the best things when I read about mental health issues. I do want to understand what it feels like to have that illness. So yeah, it is very real. It is very good. I had a tear or two. I didn't full on cry. I expected to full on cry, but I didn't. One thing that I also really liked is in the very beginning it says, this book is not light and easy read, and in the interest of minimizing harm, I'd like to warn you now that its contents include graphic violence, death, racism, OCD, and anxiety triggers. So if that is something that triggers you, be careful about this book and potentially make sure that you're in the right headspace. But yeah, definitely check it out. It is so good. So good. And the first sentence was, by the time school ends on Tuesday, my mother has died 17 times. And this is hinting towards the mental health issue that in her mind she has imagined her mom's death 17 times in just a school day, and how she has to combat that. And it's just done so well. I predicted 5 out of 5 stars, and it definitely is a 5 out of 5 stars. It is so good. And guys, look at this cover. Isn't that like gorgeous? It's just a gorgeous cover. I love it. I love this book. So I finished Exit Strategy by Martha Wells, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I don't think that I can talk too much about the details of this book without going into spoilers. Exit Strategy is part of the Murderbot Diaries, where we are following an artificial intelligence that has kind of been getting a mind of their own and trying to get emancipated in a way. But they still are struggling with the programming, the mission, and the laws of robotics. And he's a wonderful, charming person that loves watching soap operas and like is completely into like kind of pop culture in a way. But has a history of murdering. And yeah, there was like, I don't know. I don't know how to talk about this without going into spoilers, but the whole series is fantastic. If you know me a little, you know that I love when a book or a character opens up your mind to being challenged and seeing the world in a new way. So just challenging the ways that we see things, the way that we're used to seeing things. And characters like an AI that is learning to navigate the world tend to do that for you because they question things and they just question everything in a way that a human being that has been raised in a society doesn't question it. With Murderbot, add a little bit sassy snark. It's not really sarcasm. It's not really like it's a bratty character, but I think that there's some unintentional sassy snark in there. Being snarky without intending to be snarky, being snarky because Murderbot doesn't know any better kind of deal. I don't know how to describe it. I suck at it. I'm sorry, but I really enjoy it. I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars because it just, I don't know if it just needs to be longer or, I mean, Murderbot 1, 2, 3, and 4 were like 3-hour audiobooks, and now the 5th one is a full-length novel, which I'm super excited for.
When I got back to Readalongs, a bunch of humans tried to kill me.
All right, when I've gotten back to, I predicted 4.5, and I feel that matches my 4-star in a way, because I usually don't end up giving half stars much. I feel like I give half stars with the sentences a lot more than I end up giving half stars for the actual book. But yeah, it's a wonderful series. If you enjoy sci-fi, it's not that hard sci-fi. It's more of a fun way of looking at things, sci-fi. If you enjoy following an artificial intelligence that is trying to find their place in the world, it's kind of on the brink of between being an AI and getting your own conscience and your own motivations and everything, and that line, I love to explore that. I love that in the Wayfarer series as well, in the second one, and it's one of my favorite things because it gives the platform to explore humanity. So yeah, love it, can absolutely recommend it. Let's get into Network Effect. We're reading 3 Murderbot Diary books this month, hopefully. During the last live show, we finished Once Upon a Need, and I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. This is such an amazing book. I'm usually not a short story type of person, but these short stories are so incredibly good. They're very diverse. It covers pretty much every angle of Muslims that I could think of. It covers people in very different stages, and well, not stages, because it's all like from a middle grade kid centric, but different areas, like geographic areas, different types of social construct, and different types of ethnicities, and different types of different like versions of the religion, different ways of celebrating, different focuses. And I just love how each and every single short story covers a different topic, and it just tells the Muslim Ramadan Eid story so beautifully. It is very joyful, it is very hopeful, but tears were shed as well. Very touching stories, very heartbreaking stories. Overall, I just think it has been perfectly curated because it just works. Some of the stories are heavier hitting than others. I think that it is a really, really good middle grade book, and somebody on a live show said that this should be made a book that people read in school, and I fully agree. I think that this would be an awesome book to read in school, to familiarize yourself with Eid and or to feel seen. So I love this book, and I absolutely recommend this to anyone who wants to understand a little bit more of the variety of Islam, the variety around Eid, celebration, and just wants to learn a little bit more about a culture, or if you're a Muslim, for your kids to just feel seen. And it's an awesome book. So just, yeah, it's awesome. During the last live reading sprints, I finished Habibi. I started and finished Habibi. I think this was like a 3-hour read. I love this so much. I'm giving this 5 out of 5 stars, even though I do think that there's a few problematic things in here, but it surprised me so much. It emotionally touched me so much. I felt so like, I don't know how to explain it, but I felt a little bit scarred, but in a good way after reading this. I didn't expect this. So Habibi is pretty much marketed as about where Islam and Christianity is born, and you follow a story of like a woman and a girl and a boy pretty much. And you follow this. There's no set time frame for this. There's no like, I think it's like the history of human race in a way, because we start in what seems like very, very ancient Arabic areas. We have harems, we have sultans, but also how the huts are built and how people live. It really looks like this is like very ancient, and then we end up mixing things with all of a sudden somebody has sunshades on, and then we have in the end skyscrapers and everything. So it feels like a history of the human race as well. There's so much symbolism in this, and if you take the time to just really look at these images, they are so heavy hitting. There's so much criticism in this, but also like awareness for different types of things. There's this one scene where the woman is talking about how she feels fat during pregnancy and how she just feels very, very uncomfortable in her body. And there's this image where she is standing there and a really overly obese body is leaning on her, like she's carrying it on her back, and then there's another huge foot like putting pressure. It's like such a powerful image for when you're struggling with these kind of things mentally. This book should come with every content warning, I feel like, that you could have. We have death of a child, we have slavery, we have abuse, we have unconsensual sex, we have mutilation, we have it feels like everything, starvation. There's so many layers to this. So what is a little bit problematic about this book is that we have a problematic display of Oriental representation. The whole harem sultan thing is very, very stereotypical and very one-sided, and that might not be considered good representation. If this is something that disturbs you or that puts you off, then this might not be for you. But knowing that this is the case, that it's very one-sided and very stereotypical, and you're not getting like a good, like you're not critically thinking about harems and sultan using harems and the whole abuse part in this. Like, there's no critical thinking about this. There's no, hey, maybe you want to look at it from another side. There might be something like positive in this. No, it's just very one-sided. And the other thing is the display of nudity. You have a lot of sex on these pages. I didn't expect that, but I felt like it was good because the sex that was on these pages is to display things. It is to raise awareness for certain things. So I'm not bothered by that. But along with that comes a lot of displays of female breasts. There's like breasts everywhere. But then at the same time, the author does not show pubic hair and the author does not show male genitalia. I think there's only one single time where male genitalia is shown, and it is shown in a way that feels very unrealistic, doll-like. Very, like, this is not an image of genitalia. I don't know how to describe it, but it's, yeah, I don't know. But other than that, you usually have something covering this area, but then female breasts are on every second page, what it feels like. So it just feels a little bit weird that this is shown like that. But to be honest, there's just so much in there that touched me emotionally, that got me emotionally. I loved there's disturbing images as well. Like, I don't know if you can see that. There's a lot of disturbing imagery. Let me show you both sides. And the disturbing images are, it's social criticism all throughout, and you need to go in this with an open mind when it comes to a lot of things. And yeah, I don't know, I loved it. The images were so powerful, they were so touching. I felt so moved that I just love this so much. There's a few things about the pregnancy that I felt were something that people never talk about, but that I can understand, because not everybody is glowing and happy while during pregnancy, right? So for example, we have this, it's moving, it's kicking, it's rearranging all my ribs. My body was no longer my own, but a container reshaped by its contents. And you can see this like weird looking embryo rearranging the ribs. It's kind of disturbing, and at the same time I feel like it's disturbing in a way that I consider to be good, because it's moving me it's moving me. The images are really beautiful as well. There's not only the disturbing images, but honestly incredibly beautiful images as well. But also very realistic images. And yeah, I love this. I love this so much. This morning I started and finished Rumaiza. I have listened to it on audiobook while reading with my eyes, and I still cannot pronounce the name right. I don't know why my mouth doesn't want to do it. This was a 2-hour read. I expected a little bit longer, but this was only 2 hours. It has beautiful illustrations throughout. It's very quick and easy. It's very fairy tale-ish. So it is a middle grade fairy tale book, and it keeps true to that style. So that's why it reads so incredibly quickly. It's just, it doesn't bring the retelling of Rapunzel, Cinderella, and Sleeping Beauty into a different genre. It stays within a fairy tale genre, and it just brings it into a Southeast Asian setting, and at the same time it brings it to be, hey, we don't need a hero to rescue us. Women can be strong and rescue themselves, kind of deal. And at the same time, it was really funny. There is a male in this, but it just shows that you can be different. That you don't need to follow stereotypical, like what's expected. And yeah, this was amazing. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed this so much. It is a super quick read. And so I think the audiobook on 1 time speed is 4 hours. So you should definitely give it a go if you want something quick and easy and cute and fun. It reads like a fairy tale, so be prepared for that. It's not like high literature. It's not only middle grade. It reads like a fairy tale, and that's what you're getting. But it's a beautiful, modern fairy tale that we all need. Internment. I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. Internment is a dystopian kind of speculative fiction, 2018. We have Muslims, and we have a president in the United States who is passing laws to contain Muslims and to fight terror by very strict and stricter laws that kind of remind us of history, of Japanese internment camps, of World War II camps. And overall, this is just painting a where could this politics lead to warning book. We pretty much have Muslims who are being detained in internment camps, brought against their will into these camps and being detained there. And what made this, especially in the beginning, this just got me hooked immediately. So it's from this young girls, like teenagers, perspective, and the way that it was written is just so gripping, and I just was in there like immediately. One thing that just makes this so much different to a historical fiction book that deals with Japanese internment camps or concentration camps in Germany in the during the World War is that this is fiction, and it's not based on true events where we know what is happening. So when I read a historical fiction that plays in Germany and that we're following people being brought to a concentration camp, we know what to expect. We know the horror that they are about to live through. And similar to Japanese internment camps, we know what is going to happen and what they're facing. With this, we didn't. We didn't know how bad it can get. We didn't know what they're going to be doing there. So you were kind of in the same shoes as the people that were brought into these camps, and that would be the same for Jews and homosexuals and political adversaries in Germany or Japanese Americans in the US, because they didn't know what to expect. They didn't have the knowledge that we have now. And so it made it even more suspenseful. This was so good on so many levels, but then there were a few things where I just felt like it fell a little flat. The beginning, the first half was just amazing. The end felt a little bit crammed and rushed. And the believability took a nosedive at one point. It felt very believable throughout half of the book, and then it just felt like we're piling on a little bit heavy just to get to a certain point, just to be able to tell the story. And that kind of made me love this book less. I have read that a couple of people are annoyed with the main character's relationship with her boyfriend and how she's risking things for just a few seconds with him. She's a teenager in love. What do you expect? I mean, that's why I don't read romance, because people in love are stupid. But anyways, yes, it was a little annoying, but it felt realistic. So I was quite okay with that. The dialogues might have been cringy, but again, teenagers, what do you expect? They are cringy at times. But still, some of the believability towards the end just was getting a little bit weird, and it felt a little bit forced, and then it just felt a little bit crammed together. And it felt like a few things that were happening were simply happening because the author needed a little bit more of an emotional impact, but it didn't feel realistic. So I was in the end struggling between a 3 and a 4 star, even though the beginning was a very, very clear 5 star for me. The end was more of a 3 star, so that's why I landed on 4 stars. Now let's see. The first sentence was: I strained to listen for boots on the pavement. I expected 4.5. If I would have given this a rating after the first half, this would definitely have gotten 4.5. Yeah, the second half rated it down a little bit, but yeah, I think it's still a good and important book. And if you go into this knowing that it's from the perspective of a teenager and that you can expect teenage stuff, you should be good. And this is it for the month of May. As you might have noticed, I was not able to read 2 books from my TBR game, which means I'm in for a penalty in June. I will have to go out and do the orange and the yellow penalty. If you want to know what it means, go and watch my TBR game. In the very beginning of the video, I explain what the orange and the yellow penalties are. And you can expect a vlog style following me doing these punishments, penalties, however you want to call them. Now, wish me luck with June. I'm hoping to have a really good reading month in June. I can feel it. I can feel a good reading month coming up. I'm in a reading mood. I am going to have the time to read. I'm going to have the energy to read. I'm almost through with my rewatch of Buffy and Angel, so there's no excuses, and I'm all for like reading all the books in June. Thanks for watching. Thanks for stopping by. I hope to see you again on my channel real soon. Until then, bye.
Just loving this moment. Can we stay here forever? I'm loving this moment. Can we stay here together? If I could stop